Have you ever been attracted to someone so much that it was only matched by how absolutely terrible you knew they were? Like, they embody everything that you despise in another person, but all you can think about is just getting that nasty shit all over you? Let me tell you about the time I lost my virginity in a closet. The best thing I can say about Matt, the first guy that I slept with, is that he was employed and he was not violent. That's it. That is the kindest moment in this story about both of us. Because I was not blameless, despite solid intel that he was a poor choice, if not the poorest choice that I could possibly make. I did it. At 18, I said yes to a date with a coworker at Mazzio's Pizza who had a neck tattoo and was 6 years my senior. From start to finish, people around me tried to save me. The minute that he asked me out on the clock instead of working, my manager, Todd, grabbed me by my shirt and drugged me to the manager's office. Todd was an awesome guy. Smart, responsible, happily married. But the best thing about Todd was that he hated everyone that worked at Mazzio's Pizza, except for me and my friend Heather. And he was not shy about it. He would tell them regularly, "I can't stand you. Literally, the only thing I like about you is that I'm not having to cover your shift right now." And he treated Heather and I like dry cleaning that he was trying to escort through a sewer. Don't talk to him or any of his friends. Look at her and her life choices and make none of them. Wipe the phone off after he uses it. He is a walking disease. So I knew I was in for it when Todd drugged me into the manager's office. "Amber!" he was yelling into my face. He was tall and thin and balding, and he had glasses, and he had the driest sense of humor ever. "You cannot go on a date with him." Ugh. I told him that I understood that he didn't really, love this particular pizza cutter, but I happened to think that Matt was pretty cute. And he took a minute to, let the sickness wash over him. And then he said, "Jesus, I'm not saying I don't find him attractive. I'm saying no one should find him attractive. Especially you." He took the next night to prepare arguments and came back. And I already knew, what was awful about Matt. He did not take the pizza business very seriously. The only work that he was willing to do was cutting pizzas and unloading trucks. That was it. No answering the phone, no taking pizza orders, no responding to Todd's high-pitched interrogations about who was going to empty the goddamn walk-in when someone spilled pizza or sauce on the floor. But as much as he loved me, he hated Matt. All the guys in the back were not great, but this guy, Todd found particularly loathsome. So the next day, arguments prepared, he hits me up with this. "Stupid tattoos. Amber, he has stupid tattoos. Druggy, loser, sexually contaminated, and he's got fire red hair." All true. But the hair was my only real problem with this situation. My roommate at Hendrix was supportive. She said, "I just read a story about two redheads in love. It was a really sexy story. And this made me feel gross. You can't tell now, but I'm a redhead. I'm a redhead in a family of redheads. I don't know anyone related to more redheads than me. And I have to tell you, genetically, we're not that impressive. My sisters, redheads, and I have a saying that two reds don't make a right. And this was no exception. Never before or since have I found a redheaded man attractive. And I think it's because our children would probably have 3 heads, covered in red hair, and a shitty, indignant attitude to go with all their heads. The only explanation I have for why I said yes to a date with a guy with fire red hair and a neck tattoo is that thing that happens when you're hot for somebody even though it kind of like turns your stomach. One time, Harrison Butler described Courtney Love as hottiest, like he hates her, but still she stirs the groin. We must have worked different shifts because I don't remember Matt prior to seeing him at a Mazzio's employee meeting. He was sitting in the back, clearly stoned, and he was talking while Todd was trying to conduct the meeting. And Todd would stop every time Matt interrupted to tell him to shut up, and then he would start over to punish all of us for not taking care of one of our own. So what should have been like a 20-minute meeting ended up lasting forever. He thought he was funny, back in the back, and fire red hair. So initially, I thought he was disgusting, but after the meeting, we were standing next to each other in line to clock out, and we started talking. And my body completely and utterly betrayed me. Like, my mind shut down, and rather than paying attention to the stupid crap that's like pouring out of his face, I'm looking at his hands, his eyes, his teeth. Oh yeah, you're 24 and you don't have a car? And you work here? Cool. You're in between places to stay, so homeless? Awesome. Nothing. None of it was registering on any meaningful level. All I could think was, how about you put your mouth on my mouth and we'll just see where things go. It was despicable. And worse, I wasn't even hiding it. I'm stumbling and giggling and acting like a fifth grader with her first crush. All I knew was that I loved the way he smelled and I just wanted those pizza paws all over me. But why I wanted to touch him or have him touch me is secondary to what I discovered after all this touching began. As a boyfriend, this dude was like a 7-layer dip of terrible qualities and misfortune. Like iceberg lettuce that looks crispy and appealing, but it's been recalled for E. coli. And refried beans from a dented can that are like dripping with botulism. Sour cream that's separated so the cream water's making everything around it soggy. I know. Mad cow taco meat, and all under the guise of something that looks a little complicated and satisfying. We went on a few dates, and I quickly realized that something was off with this guy. The first time he took his shirt off, I realized that in addition to having Monica tattooed on the back of his neck, he had Lisa tattooed on his chest. Who are all these women? Was I next? Because no, sir. This was a fun way to pass the time, but this was going nowhere fast. But he also had a Stray Cats tattoo and partial sleeves. But I made peace with the tattoos. He told me that Monica was because he was from Santa Monica, so I guess they just didn't have room for Santa. And Lisa was the first girl that he ever loved. The tattoos were unnerving because who loves the Stray Cats that much? And way to have no foresight into the rest of your life. But I kept looking past things because clearly this was about me being attracted to something that made no sense. So why get hung up on stupid, stupid tattoos? Then, though, it became clear that he was a pathological liar. My initial response was to try to just keep him away from my friends and just make out with him whenever I had a spare moment. But it got ridiculous. He once told me that he'd been in prison in California, possibly true, but that his father was the governor of California at the time, got him out. Definitely not true. I would give you a list of all the ridiculous lies that I was expected to believe, but we don't have that kind of time, and the shame of listening to all of this and then showing back up for more, I can't. Then there was the way that he was with me, which the chemistry was really intense, and he was pretty good to me. I mean, outside of lying to my face every time he opened his mouth. But physically, he was very safe for me. He never pressured me. I do think that he was trying to rival Wilt Chamberlain for how many women he could bed in his lifetime career before a horrible STD took him out of the game, or old age. But this was before the age of HPV, so the downside was that I couldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, but the upside was that he knew what he was doing. The upside for me was that I was a virgin, and sleeping with a virgin was the one thing that he had never experienced sexually. Do you remember when you were a virgin? At some point, if you wait long enough, it becomes something like an old shirt that gets too tight, but you have to keep wearing it because it's like your uniform. But one day you decide you have to ditch the shirt. About 6 weeks into this, I went to my roommate's birthday party. She was rooting for me. I'm pretty sure that her gift to herself was to get me to ditch my virginity. So about 3 hours into the party, and about 6 keg beers in, I have her drive me over to where he's staying. He was not invited to the party because I was embarrassed of him. Did I mention that he was essentially a squatter? He was. He was staying with 2 coworkers at Mazzio's, but they were not happy about it, so they made him live in a closet in the hallway. And it was a pretty old house, so it had it was a large closet, not large enough for a mattress. So I get over there and he's hanging out with his friend Jeremy. Jeremy had just been dumped by his girlfriend, probably because she met Matt and realized Jeremy had no judgment. So I had a few beers with them, listened to Jeremy whine, and then it's bedtime. For Jeremy's part, he lays on the couch in the living room and at full blast plays In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel like 100 times. I guess it was their song, and now it's my song, and I can't listen to it without just wanting to punch myself in the face. I did not tell Matt upon arrival that I'd come to ditch my virginity, but once we got into the closet, I made my intentions known. I remember it very clearly. The mattress was facing the door, which is technically good feng shui, so good for him. There was a rod where he could hang his clothes, and just enough room on the floor for shoes and a dirty pile of laundry. So, please remember, I asked for a ride, gave this address, and then gave consent to have that nasty closet be the first place that I ever had sex. Restaurant workers' dirty laundry and a dude's shoes. That's the smell that's happening. Lots of sexual encounters you can't remember, but everybody has that one that sticks out for better or for worse, and this was mine. The next week, his mom came to visit from California. I was not invited to meet her. I assume that's because he worried I might ask her what it's like to be the first lady of California. But she left behind a horrifying picture. It was like a Sears portrait of like an 18-month-old baby. And the baby doesn't have a shirt on. It's laying on its belly, and it's flexing its little baby bicep, and there's a fake tattoo on its arm of a heart. So, of course I asked, and of course it was the child that he had fathered and abandoned in California. I guess Grandma brought a picture to remind him what he was missing out on, his tattooed son. Guess what the mother's name was? Anyone? Monica. Monica. At this point, I tried to make him confess that tattoo was about this Monica, but no. He insisted it was the most ridiculous coincidence in the history of the world. I want to tell you that I broke up with him. I want so bad to tell you that, but by then I was moving to Fayetteville in a few weeks, so I thought I'd just go for that long distance, slow death thing, and oh my God, it was slow. I refused to ever sleep with him again because I was scared to death of some accident resulting in me being an 18-year-old single mother with a redheaded child. I can't do that alone. That takes a village of trained professionals. No. Unbeknownst to me, I was replaced by his roommate's cousin, a stripper named Crystal. As soon as I got my car packed and drove away, Crystal was there. I found that out about 2 weeks later from a Mazzio's mole. And the next time he called me, I confronted him. And oddly, he picked this moment to be honest with me. He hadn't gotten laid regularly in a long time, and Crystal was into it. He started calling me about a year later. He was living in Bakersfield, which that's where he was from. I'm certain of it. It was not Santa Monica. You're definitely from Bakersfield. He wanted me to come visit him. He was going to send me a plane ticket. I knew it was all bullshit. The next time that he called, though, he got my roommate, Erin Von Felt, on the phone. She had known him in Conway and had been waiting a year and a half to be able to unleash on him. So he told her that he was working in a nuclear plant and they'd had some kind of accident, I'm so sure. And it wasn't a good time for me to visit. And so Erin told him what I think no one ever had. You're a pathological liar. Everyone hates you, especially me. Click. And that was the end of it, forever. It's weird to me now to have someone out there in the world that I shared such a big first with who is a complete ghost. And now I think about virginity, it's not so much something you give or take, but more like a doorway that you walk through that you can never go back. Ever. But I did get some insight into life. You know, maybe when people that love you try to give you advice, you shouldn't take it as a double dog dare to just like wreck your shit. You could listen. And also, gingers should not bang gingers, and I never ever did it again. Thank you.